Hi, fourth graders, it's Miss Leon. Here we are again, starting a new chapter in our informational writing piece. So what we're going to do is we're going to begin our chapter 4, or our chapter where we write an essay explaining why a certain piece of our writing is important. So what I'm going to go ahead and share with you is our template that we will be using to help us organize our writing for the essay component of it. So here we go. All right, here is our essay format practice. You should remember something very similar to this when we did our essay writing unit. So it should be easier this time for you to go ahead and fill in. What you're going to be doing is you're going to be taking the topic, your subtopic of your chapter 2, and you're going to be talking about why that is important to the American Revolution. So as always, I'm going to go ahead and get my box ready so that way I can write about the American Revolution. In my subtopic 2, I'm trying to move this box here. I wrote about Paul Revere. So I'm going to say why Paul Revere is important to the American Revolution. After that, I'm going to then list the reasons why Paul Revere was important to the American Revolution. So my first reason is that I have decided is of his famous midnight ride, because of the famous midnight ride to warn the colonists of the British attack. That would be my first reason. And then my second reason being, as well as his involvement in the other acts of protest against the British government. I'm going to clean this out. All right, now that I've done that, it is time for me to move on. After I've made my introduction with my thesis statement, my claim, and my reasons, I need to start with planning out my first body paragraph. Remember, my paragraphs are directly linked to my reasons. My first reason being because of his famous midnight ride. So let me go ahead and start planning out my ideas. All right, so our first reason was because of the famous midnight ride, and a piece of evidence is that Paul Revere warned John Hancock and William Dawes that the British were coming by sea. Another piece of evidence could be, all right, the second piece of evidence is that Paul Revere's warning gave the colonists time to move their guns and ammunition, so the British couldn't take them, because that is what the British were going to do. And the last piece of evidence is that the Patriots were able to get ready for battle because of Paul Revere's warning. So here are just, some pieces of evidence to support the fact that he's important, and it was the midnight ride that was important. That is that made Paul Revere important. So now I need to go on to my next body paragraph that's going to support my second reason. And my second reason is that his involvement in the other acts of protest are what makes him important as well. So I'm going to go on to my next page. All right, in our second paragraph, about his participation, he's also important because of his participation in other protests and actions against the British government, aside from the fact of his midnight ride. So Paul Revere actually fought in the army for the French and Indian War, which we all know is the cause or the beginning of the American Revolution. Paul was also part of the Sons of Liberty, which is another action or group that he's involved with other than the Midnight Ride. And lastly, Paul Revere created the etchings of the important events in the American Revolution, such as the etching of the Boston Massacre that got passed around to the colonies, as well as the painting or the portrait of the Boston Tea Party. So, and the last piece of our planning for the actual essay is we need to restate our claim with our 3 reasons. And what I can do is I can go back to the first page and I can just do some copying and pasting. So that way I'm not having to rewrite everything. All right, so I went and copied, pasted, and the last part is this. So now I have my official planning document done. And then I'm going to go ahead and use this tomorrow to help me draft my essay. Let's go ahead and get to work and see what you guys can do. Remember, you are making this essay about the topic that you chose before in chapter 2.